Oh, good morning. I just heard a buzz. That means I forgot to turn my notifications off, I think. It's Jammy Sunday. Oh my gosh, I can hardly see the screen. Hold on. Hold on. Oh, I'm going to fix some stuff here. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, it's on. It's awesome. Buddy, you cannot get in my lap right now. We have a friend. Hello. Hootsie. He knows I have the heated blanket on my lap, so he wants on here, but I'd rather you didn't. Hello. I missed a lot of names, guys, because I forgot to turn the brightness up on my screen. Today, Byron Katie and Dao De Jing Day. These are becoming my favorite days. Here, sweetie. Here. There's your chair. You get in your chair. I'll stay in my chair. Good morning. I slept so long. I feel great. I didn't wake up till, well, I got to bed late, but then I woke up at 7 and went back to bed and didn't wake up till after 10. That's always fun. What are you doing, bub? He's looking for a lap. Okay, I might have to change our... Hello, kitty. I might have to change my setup here before, because he's going to just bug me until... Come on. Come on. We'll just do, we'll just kick back. Come on. Let's drop this tripod. Sorry, guys. You'd think I would get my shit together before I went live. But... Okay. We have to change everything and make sure that the kitty is comfortable. Let's look at our Dow book. And I broke out this book again. Yeah, it's okay. The kitty makes the rules. I broke this book out. I carried this book in my purse literally for 2 years. It's all warped and written in and tabbed, but it has so much to do with everything that we're talking about. I brought it out we'll do a book flip later and see. We got some serious fun house mirror angles going on here. I kind of look like Jabba the Hutt. I'm not that big. Not that it matters. Plus now I have to talk to you guys sideways. Cat. Lots of good stuff happening. The fundraising for Desire Map licensing, I don't mind. I don't mind being fat. It's all right. Some people are fat. Some people are not fat. One time I had this is probably too much information. One time I had a surgeon tell me that my internal organs were very large. So really the only small thing on me is my eyelashes and my eyes. And I was like, my organs are big. He didn't say too big. He just said they were really big. And I was like, what am I supposed to do with that information? You want me to enter them in a county fair? Like, what do I do with that? I don't need to know that. I didn't even know that I have extra large organs. That just means I have a very big heart. So there, stupid surgeon. We're going to start here. Yeah, I could enter them in the fair and get the prize for the largest uterus. You want a blue ribbon! You guys, this Tao, thank whatever forces in the universe guided me to get temporarily bored with Course in Miracles and go looking for something else. Because finding this combination of the Tao Te Ching and the Byron Katie book is so amazing. It's so awesome. It's coming up everywhere. Let's see. Chapter 23. Nothing and not. Unlike myself, nature doesn't make long speeches. A whirlwind doesn't last all morning. A cloudburst doesn't last all day. Who makes the wind and rain? Heaven and earth do. If heaven and earth don't go on and on, Certainly people don't need to. The people who work with Tao are Tao people. They belong to the way. People who work with power belong to power. People who work with loss belong to what's lost. That to me says what everything that we know, whatever you're resonating with, is what you belong to. Wherever you set your energy meter is what you will have access to and what will have access to you in any given moment. Fortunately, we can change that, but what I'm hearing over and over is the best way to change that is to label nothing. To let every single thing in your life have equal screen time, so to speak. Just labeling nothing. Just letting it all. I put a wave on our title because just seriously living that wave, in and out wave lifestyle. Not just thinking about it, but literally allowing everything to wave in, whoosh in, and wave out. Come in and come out. Without labeling, without restriction, without judgment. What an interesting way that would be to live. When I think about it, and the few times I've been able to pull it off, it's incredibly relaxing. There's no need for relaxation exercises because relaxed and present is our natural state. So when I've been able to get through 5 minutes, or on a glorious day, a few hours of not labeling, it's refreshing. It's really refreshing because it lets me return to that natural state of being without all the stress of seeing. What happens is we see an object and we immediately start spending energy labeling it and analysis, analyzing it. What is this object? What is this object upon which I gaze? And what category should I put it in? And what color is it? And do I like that color? And what's inside of it? And do I like what's inside of it? Maybe I don't like what's inside of it. What should I put it? Should I put it in, this is a glass cup, so it needs to go in that part of the cabinet? Or should I put it in, it's a metal cup, so it can live on the floor of my car for a couple of weeks? We just spend so much energy talking about the simplest things. So then when we have something hurtful, we triple and quadruple the amount of energy doing the same thing. What is this? What is this feeling? Is it sadness? Is it a shade of sadness? Is it melancholy? Is it nostalgia? And on and on and on. If heaven and earth don't go on and on, certainly people don't need to. Whoever wrote the Tao Te Ching had a great sense of humor. Nothing of nature lasts very long at all. Nature doesn't make long speeches. A whirlwind doesn't last all morning. A cloudburst doesn't last all day. Our lives can be that easy, believe it or not. Let's see. Our second translation of that same chapter is this book by Stephen Mitchell. Chapter 23 again. Yeah. I think we do that when we go on vacation. If we go somewhere new and we're on vacation and we kind of let ourselves have a glimmer of that. We don't, well, I'll say some people do. Some people get even more controlling on vacation because they have anxiety. But if you're traveling in a place you've never been before, you're a little more willing to let things be as they are. It's probably not true. Because actually when you're traveling in a new place, you're probably pretty busy categorizing the new things you're seeing and putting them into your story. All of that's just building stories. Chapter 23. Express yourself completely. Then keep quiet. Be like the forces of nature. When it blows, there is only wind. When it rains, there is only rain. When the clouds pass, the sun shines through. If you open yourself to the Tao, you are at one with the Tao, and you can embody it completely. If you open yourself to insight, you are at one with insight, and you can use it completely. If you open yourself to loss, you are at one with loss, and you can accept it completely. Open yourself to the Tao, then trust your natural responses, and everything will fall into place. Express yourself completely, then keep quiet. Own your emotions. Let yourself have them. Feel that anger. Feel that sorrow. Feel that raging grief storm, whatever it is. Feel that jealousy or envy or grasping, whatever it is. Express it completely, then be quiet. Be like the forces of nature. When it blows, there is only wind. When we cry, there is only tears. When we rage, there is only anger. We don't tangle it up with stories about it. We just let it be what it is. When the clouds pass, the sun shines through. Oh, you're fine. You're fine, Nina. We're just on, excuse me, we're on chapter 23, and we're in the Stephen Mitchell translation now. But we're talking about how to get through life without labeling and wrapping ourselves up in stories can be really refreshing. I like that the book says, to me, that is a reference to purity. There's a purity in uncomplicated grief. There's a real purity in uncomplicated sorrow. If sorrow is just sorrow, it's clear, it's clean, and it doesn't last very long. That doesn't mean it won't be back. When you lose someone you love, the grief and the sorrow of it comes back. But if it's allowed to be like a force of nature, then it also goes away, and it comes back, and it's a little different, and it goes away, and it comes back, and it's a little different. It's a little different every time. It's a little less. It slowly moves toward a knife-like pain to a dull ache, and that dull ache can then move on to something else. Express yourself completely, then keep quiet. Be like the forces of nature. When it blows, there is only wind. When it rains, there is only rain. When the clouds pass, the sun shines through. In our title is an emoji that's a partly cloudy sky. It's a cloud half covering the sun, and I didn't know there was a reference to that. That's one of our awesome little synchronicities we're having. If you open yourself to the Tao, which is to open yourself to life, so the Tao's not something outside of you. It's not some mental construct to be chewed on like bone. It's life. It's source. It's God. It's love. If you open yourself to that, you're at one with it. You're at one with it already. You open your awareness to it. Opening to insight, you open more deeply to receiving insight when you drop all the labels. If you're worried about insight's going to change you in a way that you don't want to be changed, or your ego is concerned about defending against something or fighting for something, insight has a hard time getting in. It almost can't get in, because there's just so much of a barrier of story and defense and walls, ego walls. We often say we want insight. That's okay. But there's a part of it that's also scared to get it. So the more story you can drop, the more labels you can drop, the more open you are to receiving the information you need to go on through if you're tangled up in something. That's why the best readings are when you get card readings and things, the best ones are when you go in with no specific question. And you just say, let me hear what I need to hear. Let me see what I need to see. I'm stuck in a blind spot. I've gone as far as I can. And now I need some outside input. If you open yourself to the Tao, you are at one with the Tao, and you can embody it completely. Embodying love. Acting as a clear conduit for the God force on the planet. That lets you be the answer to other people's prayers. And that's such a great gift. That lets you be in the right place at the right time to avoid an accident. The right place at the right time to get the perfect job if a job is what you're wanting. Embodying love moves you through the world with increasing levels of synchronicity, like we're experiencing. Even such a small thing as picking an emoji that I don't normally pick that is related to the chapter that we're reading. That's a little thing. But to me that's like, oh, I'm in the flow. I'm on track. Synchronicities are signs that even though my mind may not know where I'm going the right direction. It's like road signs, like, here you go, keep going. It's like a clue, a breadcrumb trail. Synchronicity breadcrumbs. If you open yourself to loss, yeah, it's those little signs that you know you're hearing yourself and you're following your path. You're following the way. I went to pick that emoji and I was like, well, that doesn't make sense, but that was a fleeting thought, and you pick it anyway. And you think, well, I wasn't supposed to turn left, but oh well, let's see what happens. You just turn left and go with it. Just roll with it. Yeah. If you open yourself to loss, you are at one with loss. And you can accept it completely. Sometimes doing this work is scary if we're afraid to lose what we have. Whether that's the story about ourselves or our material objects. Like, if you open yourself up to the universe, what if that means you have to move? What if it means you have to move to Georgia? I mean, one of my last never statements was, I'll never live on the East Coast. Never. Well, here I am. But if I'm okay with the feeling of loss, if I'm not afraid of the feelings of grief and sadness, then whatever happens is okay. How often are our actions based on protecting us from feeling something we don't want to feel, like disappointment or discomfort or temporary chaos or loss? If you stand up to your boss, you might lose your job. Are you okay with that? Can you handle the temporary chaos that may come from taking a stand in your life? If you stand up to a spouse who's behaving badly, you may lose your marriage. Are you okay with that? Can you be okay with loss? Can you be so comfortable with loss that nothing scares you anymore? If nothing else, you can accept it completely if you're comfortable with it. And you get comfortable with it by letting it be the force of nature without a story. It just is. It's just fear. It's just loss. It's just sad. It's just whatever it is for the day. Open yourself to the Tao, then trust your natural responses, and everything will fall into place. The do without doing. Chop wood, carry water, feel your emotions, and everything will fall into place. It's a promise to us. When I've been able to do it, it's true. I don't always remember. So I'm going to read the other one more time because it was just so beautiful. I really want to get this in us. And for the few people that showed up a little later, It's just so beautiful. I want to read it again. Chapter 23 in this book. Oh, goody. Nature doesn't make long speeches. A whirlwind doesn't last all morning. A cloudburst doesn't last all day. Who makes the wind and rain? Heaven and earth do. If heaven and earth don't go on and on, certainly people don't need to. The people who work with Tao are Tao people. They belong to the way. People who work with power belong to power. People who work with loss belong to what's lost. So, let's see what Byron Katie has to say on the subject. I like having a cat on my lap. Oh, it's so beautiful. This is a really beautiful chapter. I feel like the book is getting more and more beautiful, or I'm understanding it better. I don't know what's happening. I'm just letting it. It doesn't matter what's happening, right? It doesn't need to be defined. I was thinking that my workshops are less about figuring out what you desire and more about deconstructing all the stories around you that keep you from knowing it. Because once you deconstruct the story, you automatically know how you want to feel. It's like a secondary aspect to the process. Speaking of which, I'm at $4.95 on fundraising from an outside donation off the GoFundMe. The GoFundMe website is awesome, but they do charge like 8% by the time you're done. So I've had some outside donations and a workshop purchase, ticket price purchase. So I'm over 25% of the way there. Yay! And the agency that I'm offering workshops to in Atlanta is called Lost and Found. They work with teens who are homeless in the city of Atlanta, if you can imagine, who are gay, lesbian, transgender. Yeah. Oh, the workshop, Roseanne? The January one? Ticket sales for the January one are up until January 5th, and I can probably extend that date a little bit. Yeah. So we stopped in the middle of okay. Okay, so we kind of dropped off at the end of, near the end of chapter 22. So I'm going to read these few paragraphs, and then we'll read the chapter that corresponds with today's Tao Te Ching chapter. So the end of chapter 22 says, when I say I love you, it's self-love. There's no personality talking. I'm only talking to myself. Love is so self-absorbed, it leaves no room for any other. It's self-consuming, always. There's not a molecule separate from itself. In the apparent world of duality, people are going to see you as a you and a me. But in reality, there is only one, and even that isn't true. The voice within is what I'm married to. All marriage is a metaphor for that marriage. When I make a commitment, it's to my own truth. Will you have this man to be your husband? I will, and I may change my mind. That's as good as it gets. I'm married only to God, which is reality. That's where my commitment is. It can't be to a particular person, and my husband wouldn't want it any other way. Unless you marry truth, there is no real marriage. Marry yourself and you've married us. We are you. That's the cosmic joke. If we make, this happens to people all the time. They do fine until they get married and then things get messed up. Because we think, we have lots of stories, right, about behind the word husband and wife or spouse. We have a lot of stories about that. what husbands should or shouldn't do, what husbands should be or not be, what wives should do or not do. A lot of times men think their wives are going to do what their moms did, and it's very uncomfortable for them to find out that that might not be the case. That just because mom did your laundry doesn't mean wife is going to do your laundry. Because wife don't do no laundry. It's a shock. It's a shock to some people. This wife doesn't. I do my laundry. I hate laundry, so I don't want to do extra. You have to work out exchanges of trades, like find out which one person likes and the other one doesn't like and trade them up. I don't like laundry. And nobody likes dishes. But you marry the truth. You marry the truth. When marriages get tangled up, often backtracking, a fair exchange. Yeah, you just trade it off. It's nice because he doesn't mind doing the laundry. I don't like it, so I'll do other stuff. If I liked mowing the lawn, I would mow it. I don't. He does, so he does it. But it's not because he's the man and he does the outside chores. It's because he likes that. Sometimes I like mowing because I like the riding lawnmower. It's kind of peaceful, but I don't want to do it every week. Okay, 23. I do all the grocery shopping. We both hate it, so I take that on because I don't like laundry. You just have to work it out. Anyway, when you put labels on your marriage and expectations that it needs to be a certain way, that's when things start to get complicated. Open yourself to the doubt and trust your natural responses. Ugh, it's the worst. And everything will fall into place. Grocery shopping is the worst. I'd rather do dishes every day of the week than do grocery shopping. I'd almost rather do anything than do grocery shopping. I didn't have a spiritual teacher. Suck down. You like it? Nina, I sure wish you lived closer so we could trade something. Nina likes grocery shopping. That's a miracle. I didn't have a spiritual teacher. Of course, I've had many teachers. From my mother. Wow, that's incredible. I didn't know anybody like that. From my mother to my ex-husbands to my children to the stranger in rags on the corner in Santa Monica. Linda doesn't either. She just doesn't want to cook the food. She'll go get it. So that's a good thing. You go get it, somebody else cooks it. That'd be a good trade. The privilege of not having an official teacher is there's no tradition. So there's nothing to aspire or be loyal to. This one that I happen to be doesn't have to look like anything but what it is. It can afford to be a fool. A holy fool, really, is what she's talking about. It doesn't know anything but love. It's God-delighted. It comes to take the mystery and importance out of everything. It takes the push and the time out of it. I watch my granddaughter Marley, who's 11 years old. When she dances, the dance happens beyond her control. This is so true, right? Toddlers just fling themselves around when they're dancing. Her diapered rear end wiggles. She pops up and down. Her arms fly into the air. I am watching dance being invented. It's in its pristine state. It's happening for the very first time, and I can't help joining her. She, too, is my teacher. We're dancing together at the beginning of the human race, as if this were the first dance ever danced in the history of the world. She's not trying to do it right or impress anyone. She is pure nature, and I am the same. Beyond control, I move in the same way. Popping up and down, my arms fly into the air. The laughter is pouring out of me. I feel so thrilled. It's the thrill of natural dance, coming from her, from me, from her. The song stops. She looks up at me and then down at the musical toy. She presses the button to begin the song again, and it doesn't happen. She is figuring out how to reproduce the miracle. I watch as she presses the same button 2, 3 times and finally with enough force to make the music exist. At the sound of the first note, she looks at me, her face lights up, her body begins to move, and the dance begins again. There's not much more entertaining than watching little kids respond to music. That pure expression of joy is so wonderful to be present for. My dear old white German Shepherd Kerman was another teacher of mine, one of the greatest teachers after I got a clue in 1986. There were no conditions to her love. Toward the end of her life, she became crippled and couldn't walk, so she dragged herself along the floor, still going to meet people. As she was dying, she was bleeding at the mouth. I called all 3 of my children home, and I said, if you can't find a reason why not, I'm going to go put her down. When they saw how far she was gone, they agreed it was the best thing. We gave her a big party. We hugged her and kissed her. She dragged herself around the room, apparently delighted. She didn't seem to know about pain. She didn't know about anything but giving. The whole family went to the vet, and my son Ross said she's gone, and we all knew it. She had been there, and then she wasn't. There was no her left. There was no her to say goodbye to. It was very sweet. I've also learned from the trees, walking in the redwood forest, where the deer didn't run from me. I saw trees that had fallen over from wind or lightning. They appeared to be dead, and yet there was a whole world on them and in them, moss and insects and all sorts of hidden life. Even in death, they were creating and giving what was left. Nature withholds nothing from itself until there is nothing to give. It's like my white shepherd with the smile on her face, and how when I called her she would come dragging her hindquarters. That's what we're all doing, whether or not we realize it. People have seen me crawl when the body is apparently exhausted. I never have to do that or anything else ever again. I do it because it delights me. I board an airplane and feel only freedom. This awareness is my joy. It may not appear that way, but it's an internal joy that I travel with, not the apparent exhaustion. So you can have that surface appearance of being exhausted but still feeling joy on the inside. That might not be visible if your body's face is tired, or if you have resting bitch face, which I have. Sometimes I can be feeling totally awesome and someone will be like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I just have resting bitch face. It's no big deal. And I don't give more than anyone else. The white shepherd didn't give more, nor does the redwood. We all give equally. Without our stories, all of us are pure love. Without our stories, all of us are pure divine. We're a pure expression of divine love in all the different aspects that we come in, all our different accents and colors and sizes and shapes and extra large uteruses, and we just come in so many different wonderful varieties that gets lost when we start binding all that up with stories about what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, what's great and what's not great. And busy little labelers, that's what we are. We're not busy bees. Bees aren't running around labeling stuff. We're busy little labelers. We're just running around the world with label guns, slapping labels on stuff. This is good, this is bad, this goes in that box, that goes in that box. What are you doing in that box? You belong over there in that box. Get in your right label. Ew, how exhausting. Okay. Awesome book. Awesome concepts. And we don't get to go practice this in a monastery either. Although we may have done so. Maybe doing so in parallel lives or past lives, depending on how you view that stuff. We get to do it in the wild chaos of our day-to-day world. There's nothing ever in your life that needs to be tolerated. Real-time practice. We're not sitting on a meditation cushion on a mountainside with no stress in our lives. If there's things in your life that you're gritting your teeth and tolerating, it might be time to get comfortable with the idea of what may come if you take a risk and stop that behavior. Walking and chewing gum, yeah. If you're tolerating abuse from somebody, a boss or an authority figure is what I'm feeling. I don't know what this applies to, but if you're tolerating a person or situation that's depleting you, it's time to stop that and be okay with what may happen if you take a stand in your life. If you stop that situation, if you say, I'm not going to take that anymore, and you don't have to say it in a fuck you kind of way. Sometimes just saying it internally, I am not going to allow this to happen anymore. I'm not going to allow myself to feel victimized. I'm not going to allow myself to accept abuse and tolerate a terrible situation because I'm afraid of what will happen if I don't tolerate it. That makes sense? When you stop tolerating abuse, things may get chaotic, but it's a clean chaos. It's a house cleaning chaos. And what happens on the other side of it, if you can ride that wave and go with your emotions and let your emotions be like forces of nature coming and going, where you land will be a place to be proud of, and where you stand will be solid, rock solid ground that won't ever shift out from under you ever again. So I don't know who that's for or what that's about, but it came to mind. Any of you that are putting up with something, creating pain, it's time to go. Tried to be neutral to work for years and finally realized you needed to remove yourself. Yeah. As an act of love. Yeah, as an act of self-love. You don't take it in the shorts from somebody. You don't. And that can be a scary place to be, and it can be scary to stand up and say internally no and then externally no. But whatever fear and chaos follows that is the sound of freedom blowing through your life. So let's flip this book open. It is Stillness Speaks by Eckhart Tolle. Whatever his name is. That German guy, that little German guy who wears sweaters. Okay. We flipped open to the egoic self chapter. Stillness Speaks is chunks out of the book Power of Now. So it's nice as a book oracle to flip open and see what you get. Complaining and reactivity are favorite mind patterns through which the ego strengthens itself. For many people, a large part of their mental emotional activity consists of complaining and reacting against this or that. By doing this, you make others or a situation wrong and yourself right. Through being right, you get to feel superior. And through feeling superior, you strengthen your sense of self. In reality, of course, you are only strengthening the illusion of ego. Can you observe those patterns within yourself and recognize the complaining voice in your head for what it is? A sound and fury signifying nothing. The egoic sense of self needs conflict because its sense of a separate identity get strengthened in fighting against this or that, and in demonstrating that this is me, this is not me. Not infrequently, tribes, nations, and religions derive a strengthened sense of collective identity from having enemies. But who would the believer be without the unbeliever? If you are calling yourself a believer and raging against unbelievers, there can't be a believer without an unbeliever, if that makes sense. You're creating an artificial category in which to throw tantrums in. In your dealings with people, can you detect subtle feelings of superiority or inferiority toward them? You are looking at the ego, which lives through comparison. Envy is a byproduct of the ego, which feels diminished if something good happens to someone else, or if someone has more, knows more, or can do more than you. The ego's identity depends on comparison and feeds on more. I've had addicts tell me that their drug of choice was more. Didn't matter what it was, they just wanted more. The ego will grasp at anything. If all else fails, you can strengthen your fictitious sense of self. Hello, people popping in. Through seeing yourself as more unfairly treated by life, or more ill than someone else, or more poor than someone else, or more fat, or more dumb, or whatever label you want to put on it. If all else fails, you strengthen your fictitious sense of self by seeing yourself as a victim, basically. By viewing yourself at the mercy of outside forces rather than being an architect of your own destiny. What are the stories, the fictions from which you derive your sense of self? What story of separation are you telling yourself today? How are you making yourself separate from the collective today? And that can be labeled positive or negative. We've talked in the past about how when we want something in our own lives and we don't have it, we can see it in someone else's life and enjoy the concept that that is us too. That we do have it over there, but it's not over there. It's all right here. That can loosen up your mind for that shift in perception that was called a miracle in Course in Miracles. It can go a long way toward easing a sense of being without or lack. Is that all making sense to you? I think that's all I have. This cat is breaking my knees. Yeah. So 2 things. Look at labels. Look at letting your emotions be that force of nature. And if someone on here or a replay viewer is tolerating a bad situation, it's time to stop that. Sometimes we don't know. But it's time to stop that. Whatever that is. We don't need the details. You can put boundaries in place and stop situations without being all judgmental about it. You just recognize that you love yourself enough, and you love the other person enough that you're not going to let them continue to hurt themselves by being an asshole. And you're not going to continue to hurt yourself by taking it. What a great Sunday. There's a label for you. This Sunday's no different than any other Sunday. Do you see? Like when you start to watch it, oh my gosh, we're spending time, so much time and energy. This is good, that is bad. I like that color, I don't like that color. This coffee tastes great, this coffee tastes like crap. This person's good, that person's an ass. An ass hat. Do you have any questions? I don't have any more words. Hi, Linda. I think I saw Chelsea pop in. Janet popped in a while ago. I saw several people pop in. I apologize if I didn't get you by name. Or if you're on the web and we can't see your name. So I know we've talked about this in the past, but see if you can get through the next hour or two, if not by stopping labeling, at least hearing yourself label. Hearing how you're separating yourself from that divine state of joy through storytelling. See if you can hear your storyteller with kindness and love for the storyteller. See if you can hear her talking today. She's just doing her job. But it's life. It will be easier if you can hear the storyteller in action. And just watch. Just observe. So Monday and Tuesday I'm with the twins. So sometimes that goes smoothly and sometimes it goes with poopy diapers and screaming toddlers. So we just never know. We just have to wing it. Because toddlers are a force of nature in the purest way possible. I extended the desire map for men to the 21st. That's the absolute last day that I can mail stuff. The link for that, for the men's group, is right there. If you have a man in your life who you think could use deconstructing, yes indeed, deconstructing his story, I don't think I can. It's become such a part of my daily practice. And I know that over Christmas people may or may not be able to show up, and that's fine. I mean, I don't have any expectations over who's here and who's not here. It's just putting it out there. Christmas Day, yeah, we'll be at home. We do, that's not true. We are doing Christmas Day in Christmas afternoon because of other people's work schedules. So Christmas Eve will be at home. Christmas Day will be down in Loganville, but we won't. I'll let you know if I'm not going to be on, yeah. If I suddenly decide I can't possibly do a scope, then I will let you know. But I expect to still keep doing it, right? Because your daily practice doesn't stop because there's a holiday. You still need to be doing I still need to be doing my daily practice. For my expression of the divinity still happens. And not everybody celebrates Christmas either, so yeah. My intention is to keep going. It's very important to me because this has become such a part of my own spiritual practice. So to skip a day would be to skip my own practice, and I'm not willing to do that. You don't celebrate, yeah. See, not everybody does Christmas, so. And there's time to do it. I got dripped on. There's time to do it before we go down, make the trek down to the toddlers and my daughter and stuff. So much, much love to you guys. If you do celebrate Christmas, enjoy the preparations. If it gets too stressful, take a break or take a shot, whatever works for you. Enjoy it. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow and Monday. Expect the toddlers. Love you, and you're welcome.